Sometimes that is better.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the KillJoy Jake podcast. I'm joined here today with Matt from Slashing It with Matt. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you guys? Nice to see everybody.
Hell yeah, dude. We're going to talk a little bit about Halloween today. I'm very excited to get into this. Is there any like hot takes you want to throw out there before we really start going through the franchise?
Yes, I guess let's start with the most difficult thing at first. There's so many hot takes about Halloween Ends. So with that being said, I actually do not hate this movie, but I understand why so many people do. Okay, and I will explain because is this movie a good end to a trilogy? No. Did this movie answer questions that Halloween Kills set up? No. But did they do something different? Yes, and that's what I think I genuinely appreciate about it.
Yeah, I agree with you. It does take a brand new direction for the franchise, which is fun. I watched Curse again last night, and I feel it's very akin to that movie in the way, like spiritually. It's trying to take it down a new direction, make it something fresh again.
Yeah. Did you say Cursed?
Curse, like Curse of Michael Myers.
Oh, Curse. Okay, I thought you were talking about that werewolf movie. Never mind.
yeah, they're the same,
Yeah, right.
pretty much. Werewolves, yeah. Corey Cunningham.
Right.
No, but I love that they tried to do that in the latest entry. You know, they tried to make it something fresh. It wasn't just Michael Myers running around killing people again. I look back at Curse of Michael Myers and I wish they could have done something closer to that, where it was almost like a twist at the end if you watch the producer's cut, where it's like the evil's transferred and it's horrifying. I love that in a lot of ways. But I'm curious, what do you love about Halloween Ends that makes it underrated?
So I can't necessarily say like I loved, like it was more drama than anything. I think maybe what it was for me was like the transference of evil, because we're seeing this character Corey in the beginning who everyone claims that he, committed this horrible murder with a young child, but what we see is that he did not. It was an accident. So it's like basically everyone telling him he's evil is kind of where he started to become evil. I think like he started getting that way even before he like saw Michael Myers interlock the eyes and everything. So I thought it was just, I don't know, something different. It didn't feel like a Michael Myers movie. And I still can't, besides what I said in the beginning, I still can't totally describe why I like it, but I just do. I don't know. But like I said, I get why people don't. So many people say Corey Cunningham should have been at least introduced in Halloween Kills to have some buildup for him to kind of take over this whole movie. And no, that did not happen either.
How would you feel about like Cameron being in Corey's place? Like, let's say he lives through Kills and then like goes evil in the next film. Like, do you think that would be a smoother transition? How do you feel about that?
I do. I think that would have been better, because then like we've seen Cameron before. So seeing a character that was in this, in the previous movies already, that might do it more for people. Maybe at the end, right before Cameron's death, instead of killing him, they have like that transference there. And then maybe it begins to happen during that 4-year time frame.
Ooh, okay, that's pretty cool, because Cameron, he kind of has the comeback arc in Kills a little bit, but I'm still not on board with Cameron as a character.
Right. He kind of became the good guy again, but still it's almost like he paid for what he did in the first one. So
it'd be kind of cool if he turned evil. I'm like, oh shit, okay, that's kind of cool.
I think, and then the romance angle, that would make more sense with Allison, in my opinion, too, because the way when they got together, it was literally like, what, a 4-day romance. They were in love, ready to drive away together. That didn't make sense.
No. I almost feel like she forgot she was Andy Manichag for a moment there. I'm like, come on.
I agree. I agree. Something did feel off.
Yeah, no, it's, I respect it. I respect it for its ingenuity and trying something new. I just wish it was a little more polished. I think that's my biggest issue with it. But we want to go through the whole franchise today and kind of just give our thoughts on every single movie, going through all 13 of these bad boys. Yep. Let's start off right from the original too. Halloween 1978. Matt, how do you feel about this movie?
I feel first of all, that movie is a classic. Okay. I feel it's simple enough to get the point across without having so much craziness in it. Michael Myers only kills a total of 5 people in that movie, which one of them you don't even see. So I feel it's very clean cut. It shows that he's a psychopath. It shows he's a stalker. And to me, in that movie, I enjoyed that more than the gore, because it had so much suspense factor. I think that's what I like so much about the original movie.
Oh yeah. It's very, it's not focused on like trying to build a big body count. It's more
Right.
about like just making the best out of the kills that we do get to see. I think in a lot of
Exactly.
ways, building up the
Exactly.
boogeyman.
Yep. Exactly.
I really think I see a lot of criticisms for the original film. Like it's not scary and things like that. I don't get it personally. I think it
I
creates.
don't either. I guess when it first came out for test audiences, I've heard that they sent. I think it like premiered only in Kansas City, if I'm correct. And they sent it out there, and some people were viewing it without a score, and they're like, "This movie's terrible. It's not scary whatsoever." They added that score to the film, and then all of a sudden, people thought it was scary.
That's a huge factor into it, though. I think like the score gives you this atmosphere about the movie that's just so specific and in particular. Like I
Right.
don't know too many other movies that have done that as successfully as the original Halloween. Like maybe It Follows comes close, but
Right.
this original movie, I think it's so special. It basically launched the idea of the slasher into like the forefront of horror media for like the longest time too.
Yeah.
It's such an important horror flick.
Oh, for sure. Honestly, like I know we had Black Christmas before, Texas Chainsaw, but I feel Halloween is what brought about Jason and Freddy a couple years down the line.
Because my thing with like Black Christmas is constantly cited as like that's the first slasher movie, and I'm
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that, because I feel like
Right.
the idea of having an icon, building up a character to the point where like you're so terrified of him, not and the only thing you know about the guy is what Dr. Loomis is telling you. Like
Exactly.
that's part of it. That's part of the formula, in my opinion. Halloween's the first film to do that.
Right. I agree with that 100%.
Like they built up Michael Myers as this icon in one movie. That's one of the most impressive things about it. I love that Friday the 13th was able to do that. Nightmare on Elm Street, Chucky, all these other people come out later. But Halloween's the first one to really do that. Even if like, movies like Black Christmas, Texas Chainsaw, Psycho builds the building blocks of that. I just don't think we got there until 1978 personally.
Right, right. And I agree with that. I agree with that. I've seen them all, and yeah, Halloween's the first one that does it for me, I'll say that.
Absolutely, man. Very good stuff. Any other hot takes about the original, and also give me your rating of it?
The original Halloween, I would say that I would probably give it an 8 out of a 10. Some of the things I didn't like about it were like geographical errors, such as like you do see palm trees. The fact that I don't think Illinois would have your laundry unit outside of your house by the garage. Just things like that. But they don't like genuinely bother me, like stuff like that. I get their mistakes, but I don't know. That's the only thing I can really say bad about that film. So,
But they're there, it's
yeah,
little
right,
things.
right,
I get
right.
it. I get it.
Yeah.
I've always I probably give it a 9 or a 10 out of 10, just because it's so like I'm such a dork. I'm such a dork who loves horror movies. I'm like, yeah, it's just so important. Like if that movie never came out, who knows what the 80s would have been
Right,
like? And that's
right.
constantly cited as one of the biggest times for horror ever.
Right. And the fact that we're still getting these movies today, I think it's because of that original movie.
Right. It's just so important. It's a classic. I love it so much, man. Such a banger.
Yeah.
So moving on though, John Carpenter writes the next one, Halloween 2. How do you feel about this movie?
Well, me personally, I did like it. Years later, I heard John Carpenter wanted nothing to do with this. So like he pretty much just wrote like a BS script while he was drunk. That's why Michael and Laurie are brother and sister. But I mean, for what it's worth, to me, he still did a good job. And I thought it was a very good way to continue Halloween on the same night, but filmed 3 years later. It technically adds to, I guess, the body count on the same night. But still, I do see that first film standalone. So I like it, I think the hospital was a bit much. I could see maybe going in and out of the hospital a little bit. But Laurie Strode was pretty much in that bed the whole time until the last, 15 minutes. So it would have been a little bit better if she had some more screen time with Michael Myers. I felt that would have been maybe helped it just a little bit. But overall, I think it was great.
Oh, absolutely, man. And the ending when, they finally like meet and they have the chase and the fight and all that. It's like, okay, this is solid. I just wish we could have gotten more of that, or Laurie had something else to do besides lay in a hospital bed, but you're kind of backed into a corner there doing a sequel that takes place immediately where we left off. Like, I don't know what else they could have done. It's just
Right.
it's unfortunate because Laurie's such a badass in that first one. I wish she could have done even more in the sequel, but
Yeah, I do too.
I am glad we had some pretty solid side characters. I'm not like losing my mind over them, but I think like the hot tub death is really effective. Not only due to the character, but the kill itself. How do you feel about that or the kills in the film?
I think Karen and Bud were their names, and I think they were in that movie two of the best side characters, and they set them up for the perfect deaths. Honestly, like the whole hot tub thing, burning her face, like to me that was amazing. I that was probably my best kill, I think, in that movie.
Oh, without a doubt. And then like she sucks Michael Myers' fingers too,
she
which
does, she does. I mean, I think realistically, like she's gonna taste blood. But whatever.
It's so upsetting to me every time I see it. I'm just like, oh god, it unlocked a new fear in my brain when I saw that the first time. I'm like, I would never want to lick the fingers of like Leatherface or any of these people. Like, ugh.
Exactly.
As a germaphobe, that scene freaks me out. But I do love a lot of the kills in this one, and it has a quite literally explosive ending to it. How do you feel about this one and where Halloween 4 will take it in the future?
So, I mean, I thought it had a good ending. We got the impression that both Loomis and Myers both died. Okay, we never found out really what happened to Jimmy until the made-for-TV version came out, where he was alive. And snuck into the ambulance. But me personally, I think he survived. And I do think if they did not plan on making sequels past this, they did a good job ending a story. I think they did a great job. But they also left it open to do what they ended up doing, which was Halloween 4.
Oh, yeah. And it's fun. You can look at Halloween 2 as like that's the end of the story, or you can watch the Thorn movies. It's kind of a choose your own adventure in a way.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. It's very fun. It's very fun that way, though. I dig it. So what would you rate Halloween 2 on a scale from 1 to 10?
You know what? I'd probably honestly give it the same rating. I do an 8 out of 10.
Hell yeah, man. Mm-hmm. Hell yeah. I'm probably right there with you. I think I give it an 8 out of 10. This one's definitely towards the top of my like tier list and all that. I really enjoyed this one. This one's always been a fan favorite, I guess, of mine.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good movie.
It's fun. It's a fun little slasher flick. Moving forward, though, into something that's a little less of a slasher, I guess, Halloween 3. This one's a weird one. Everyone has kind of a hot take one way or the other on this one. Matt, what is your take on it?
So here's the thing. This one, I remember not being too interested in because I knew Michael Myers was not in this movie. It has been so long since I've seen this movie, but I see now, like I look everywhere online, this movie's getting so much praise. I need to fully rewatch that movie to give a better opinion on that film.
Oh yeah, man. It's very out there. It's very out there. It's a completely different movie essentially, but it goes back to what John Carpenter wanted to do with the franchise originally. Right. The jukebox of horror thing, which he didn't get to do in 2, and that's why there's some pissy attitude in that second film. How do you feel about that anthology concept? Like, would you have liked to have seen entire movies that are just like their own separate thing taking place on Halloween, or do you like the franchise how it is?
Right now, I think an anthology thing would be pretty cool until we got Michael Myers back. But back then, no, because if they went down that route, we might not have had anything past Halloween 2. So, I mean, I guess I'm gonna say keep it the way it is.
Hell yeah. And, we found ways to do new ideas with the concept of Michael Myers as a killer, too, in some of these sequels. It works, sometimes it works for people, sometimes it doesn't. I'm excited to get more into that later on into this podcast. But 3 is probably one of the biggest, like, most out there ones. It's about masks that kill people because of Stonehenge. Yeah. What?
Right.
How do you feel, just like as a standalone movie, though? Do you think Halloween 3, like, works? Or, like, not even considering it as part of this franchise?
As a standalone movie, yeah, I think it does.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's got some crazy moments to it. The kid's head turns into snakes and bugs.
Exactly. and it's something I'm definitely going to give a rewatch this Halloween season for sure.
Hell yeah, man. Give it a rewatch. It's a fun one. Just don't watch it as a Halloween movie. I feel like that's a principle with a lot of these films, is like Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, which I'm really excited to talk about with you in a minute here. I watched that film not from the perspective of, this is trying to be a continuation to John Carpenter's classic. You take those off, you take those blinders off or whatever, and you just watch it as a standalone movie. You can enjoy a lot of these weirder sequels, especially this one.
Oh, for sure. I agree.
Absolutely, man. Well, moving in then to Halloween 4, kind of the real Halloween 3, the real continuation to the
Yep.
second film. What's your take on this one?
So my take on this one is I absolutely loved this film. Reasons why. I feel like out of any Halloween film, we got like the season of fall, Halloween portrayed to us so well in this movie. That opening scene was amazing. Um, and we go right into I think it's Smith's Grove. He's technically still there. Like going to Smith's Grove, basically everything's explained to us what happened. Like the first 5 minutes of the movie. So anyone that didn't see it or don't remember 1 and 2, we get caught up really quick, and then we get into the action. And I love the fact that well, I don't love the fact that they play off Jamie Lee Curtis's character of Laurie Strode killed off screen. I didn't like that, but they brought in her daughter Jamie Lloyd, and I thought the whole family dynamic thing, Myers coming after family, I thought it was really good, and they did a really good job with that movie. I love the side characters. I love the dialogue in that movie. I think that movie has the best dialogue out of most of them, and I love it.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. The 4, it's very much so in a lot of ways like a remake of the original, but like obviously proving that those exist as well. We have it's almost like a hard reboot. We have Jamie Lloyd now as the focus. Laurie Strode's killed off screen, which is a wild choice, but they're like, okay, yeah, fuck it.
Yeah,
She's
right,
car crash.
right.
Oh shit, okay. I really like Danielle Harris in this role. I wish we could have seen just more of her in like a newer movie. Like this plot line and this story was attempted like in like the thousands or maybe even now. I feel like it could have been even better. But I love what 4 sets up. I just wish 5 could have really knocked it out of the park, but it doesn't.
No, I know. And from what I heard, they jumped production right after 4 to have 5 come out exactly a year later. I guess they started filming this before the script was even written, and I thought it shows to me, because I'm like, at the end of 4, I'm like, I'm like, what is that going to set up in 5? What 5 set up? Yeah, I did not like.
Oh, well, we'll get into that in a second here. Fuck it, I'm hyped. 4 also has kind of introduces more members of like Haddonfield. Like you get the idea of the town being a bigger entity in 4.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that being dealt with not only in 4 but also in Halloween Kills?
I guess in 4, okay, they made it okay, so like Earl and his gang, they all found out, what was going on at the bar. They wanted to take matters into their own hands. They wanted to create the mob and everything. So I guess in 4, I understood it a little bit more, seeing as though, yes, they did not have a police force. Michael killed them all except for one. So I guess what's your only option? But then again, in Kills, Michael killed the whole fire department too. But I feel like they would have had more resources in Kills, maybe not to go down like the mob kind of way that they went. But I guess everyone was just so upset. I think maybe what it did it for me was they said "Evil dies tonight" like 200 too many times, and that kind of took me out a little bit. At one point, it almost became funny in kind of a joke how people were acting, especially in those hospital scenes. And those hospital scenes took me out of the movie a little bit.
Absolutely. And 4, I think, handles it a little better. I think it's also because of the time period. Like I feel like in 1988 this could happen, where in like today I'm like, I don't know, man. I feel like the FBI would be here if one guy was killing like 40 people in the span of like one night,
Exactly. Yeah.
So I do feel you there. I think Halloween 4 does deal with that just a little better. And then we have this ending, which leads into one of the goofiest opening scenes in 5 of the whole franchise. How do you feel? How do you feel about 4's like overall conclusion?
Okay, I saw that happening. I'm like, okay, Jamie kills her foster mom. Loomis is getting all crazy. He wants to shoot Jamie. And when it ends there, I'm thinking, okay, if they do 5, Jamie Lloyd's gonna be the killer. That's not the route they went down, which is fine. But for half of that movie, if not more, she's mute in a hospital and can like communicate mentally with Michael Myers. So I don't really get that. I wish they wouldn't have gone down that route. But I mean, that's what we got. In Tina didn't make a lot of sense to me either. But hey.
Oh, there's a lot of things about Tina we don't like.
Yeah.
But
Tina.
The other thing I want to bring up too, well, two things. First of all, this franchise, this is the first time in part 4 where we're really trying to swap roles of who the main antagonist is. Like
Yes.
Michael Myers is presumed dead, of course, and then we're trying to pass that torch to another killer.
Yep.
Like, do you think this franchise could ever really be successful, get like the majority of the fandom on board with a secondary killer? Because that seems to be a very huge negative towards a lot of these movies, at least from some people. Like, some people don't like that idea. They just want to see Michael killing people. Do you think we could ever have a secondary antagonist in this franchise?
You know, I mean, we did in Ends, obviously, but to make fans happier and for more people to want to see that, I feel that they could have did it better. Like, maybe have Michael Myers throughout that movie, have Corey throughout that movie, but at the end of the movie, the transference of evil gets put on Corey. Then we still have that same fight scene with Jamie Lee Curtis. They put Michael in the grinder. He's dead. Corey takes over for the next film. I think that would be a better way to go about it.
Because I also like the other thing about that is would it have characteristics? Would it be personality driven, or would this person now who's evil just kind of turn into Michael, like a silent, stone cold killer who just breathes and stabs people? Because like, would you need another killer? I guess is my point. Like, could we find a new style of killer for these movies? Would that work, or would fans just never be able to get behind that? You know, like, could we have a different style of killer in this franchise?
I don't know. I feel like it would go honestly like half and half, because it's like, okay, Michael's dead, but then, we want a killer just like him to replace it, and then, replace him, and then someone else might be like, well, you know what? No, Michael's gone. Let's do something different. So I could see it both ways. I could personally go either way. But for instance, like when we get to towards the end of the movie on Halloween Ends with Corey in the junkyard, obviously, he takes Michael's mask. That scene was, pretty ridiculous, but it happened. And, when he was killing, the 4 band members at the junkyard, I felt like he was Michael in those scenes, honestly.
It's believable. It's viable.
Yeah.
I've always felt like if we do like another body takes the shape of evil and all that, like I'd be okay with that. It would explain Michael. It's almost basically what I'm pitching is like Jason Goes to Hell a little bit, but it's like if the idea of Michael Myers is that he can transfer the evil from one body to another, and Michael Myers isn't really anything special. It's just the evil inside of him transferring from body to body. That could explain why there's multiple movies. I'd be into that personally. Just because of what you said there.
Right.
The other thing I want to touch on with Halloween 4 is Dr. Loomis is back and alive after he suffered an explosion. He's just got he's got a little burns on his face. He's all right. How do you feel about Donald Pleasant's inclusion in 4, 5, and 6?
I think it's great, especially with not having Jamie Lee Curtis. I think he was like, besides Loomis, the main character of the film. I know Danielle Harris was too, but I think Loomis ultimately stole the role.
Oh yeah. Oh, without a doubt. He shines big time in these movies. He makes 5 a little worthwhile in my opinion, which is maybe a hot take. But I love him. He's so crazy. He gets progressively crazier through 4 and then 5. And then in 6, he's like, I'm retired now.
Right.
But I've always dug that. I really like his arc throughout all these movies. Even, if an explosion, would he survive that explosion? Probably not, but I don't care.
Exactly. Right.
Such a necessary component to some of these movies. And speaking of which, with Halloween 5, he's one of the only good parts of that one, in my opinion. But Matt, how do you feel about Halloween 5?
I mean, it's watchable. I just try to think of it as, okay, we see Rachel in the beginning. We see Jamie. We see Loomis. I try looking at it as, I loved Halloween 4 so much. Let me see what kind of came from Halloween 4. So I'm kind of digging the beginning and everything. They kill Rachel off extremely early, which I thought was disappointing. And then all of a sudden you have Tina, yet again, a character we've never met, take over the sister role for Jamie. And she seems all, fun and happy and everything. And then first words Jamie's finally able to say, she says, Tina, please don't leave. What does Tina do? She leaves. I just didn't think she was a great character.
Yeah, I don't think she's a great character, and I don't think the way they structured that movie
Right.
works. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, why? Why are you making these
Exactly.
choices? What do you think is like the borderline? I feel like you can always kind of narrow it down to like a one big thing that really sent you over the edge with a film when you just like, you're like, yep, I don't like it. What do you think that was with Halloween 5?
Okay, so the very ending, you see the guy in the black suit, which we know is obviously going to bring us Curse of the Thorn, and the whole destruction of the police department. Jamie screaming. They had Michael Myers in the cell with his mask on, pouting. I didn't like where that went.
It's goofy.
Yeah, goofy. It was just too much. And speaking of goofy, I didn't like the clown noises that the cop. Yeah, I'm like, what? Why?
Right, you're right. Like, I feel like they just threw this thing together. They're like, yeah, let's just make another one of these. We'll make some money off of it. And hey, maybe we'll have a fun time in the editing room for some, like too much fun in the editing room with this one.
Right.
It's like we got clowns rolling up or something on the scene. It's crazy. It's so ridiculous. And it doesn't work. It's not a very funny movie inherently, you know?
No.
It is trying to take itself seriously, and then for those random clown noises with the cops, it's ridiculous. I don't know.
Right. Like maybe give him some funny dialogue, but the noises, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, too much for me. But whatever.
Absolutely. I've never been crazy about this one, but I forgot to ask. So with Halloween 4 and Halloween 5, how do you think you would rate these ones on a scale from 1 to 10?
Okay, so honestly, I love the classic Halloween 1978. I always say it's one of my favorite movies, but I'm going to rate Halloween 4 at a 9 instead of an 8.
Hell yeah.
Okay? And the only reason I would not give this movie a 10 is because of Michael's mask, the shoulder pads. It just didn't look like him.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about the design in 4 or 5. Honestly, I don't know. Like they give him like eyebrows. There's something just off about the shape of the mask. You know what I mean? Like the first time you see it
was so different.
Yeah, you see it at like the gas station, not diner. That first time, it looks like a diner to me for some reason. But you see that, and it's just like, that's not Michael. Like, why wouldn't they just use a similar mask to like 1 and 2? I don't know. But I agree. I feel you, man. I really like 4. I think it's super underrated. It's so like that movie is funny intentionally and well done, but it's also got some scary, fun moments to it as well. Some nice tension building. The one guy singing in the car with Dr. Loomis. It's got really great moments that feel like cartoonish versions of the original, and it heightens, not cartoonish, heightened versions of some of the stuff that they were trying to establish in that first movie. So
for sure, and I love that. I don't know, and I guess I don't know why I love that scene so much with Loomis in the car with the guy, but it's like it's the first time you really see him smile, and I was like, okay, that's good to see a smile out of Loomis, you know.
Right, he's been like just suffering in the past 2 movies you've been watching him in, and then for him to finally be like, oh, okay, there's a little bit of humanity still left in that husk.
Exactly.
But then we get to 5. How do you rank this one on a scale from 1 to 10?
Okay, so I'm gonna be nice with this. I'm gonna just give it a 5, just a flat 5.
Middle of the road, average. I got you, man.
Yeah.
So there is still some good to it, but a lot of bad too. Essentially, is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
I feel you on that one. I feel you, man. So, but then we move into Curse of Michael Myers, which a very divisive film. A lot of people love this one. Some people don't get it or don't, or just completely hate it. What is your take on this movie?
I just, for whatever reason, it's my least favorite out of all of them. Just because I just, for some reason, with Michael Myers, the whole cult thing to me just does not fit in the Halloween franchise. But then again, if someone has the opposite opinion, that's fine too. I get it. That just doesn't specifically work for me. And this kind of goes against with what I said with Halloween Ends, but Michael works alone, I guess. I don't feel like he needs a whole cult behind him. I don't know. I just didn't like where that story went. I just didn't.
It is different in Ends, though. Like, you get Michael Myers in Curse, for instance. He's like standing there at the end of the movie as they're with the baby and all that. I get the relationship is different from that versus Corey and Michael. Like, it's almost like incidental. In Halloween Ends, he's just kind of like, yeah, you're here too, cool. We met in the sewer, whatever. Michael doesn't give a shit. But in that, it's almost like it's a whole ass thing. It's a whole event. and it's just weird. It doesn't make sense for a Michael Myers as a killer to do that. What I will say though about Curse is watching that as a standalone movie and how it deals with some of the weird shit that that 5 sets up that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
I've always felt like it turns that into something really special and different, even if that doesn't really work with the timeline or the type of franchise this really is. Do you appreciate any of like the weirder things going on in this movie just as like a standalone movie, or is it just like, why the fuck are they doing this in this franchise?
Well, yeah. Like I was saying with Ends, like I can always appreciate something different being done. So for it being different, yeah, sure. But like you were saying, like a standalone film, absolutely.
But it is like the continuation to 4 and 5. It's kind of the same problem that a lot of people have with Ends. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I see what I see what you're saying. I've always felt like this one is like, this is where we really get to cartoonish characters, like where Tommy Doyle is like sniffing people's hair, stealing babies. It's just odd. It's just a very odd vibe throughout. How do you feel about that tone applied to this movie?
I agree with you, honestly. Like I'm gonna go with you and say it's like cartoonish, like almost to a point, like not necessary. Like why go down this route? I don't know. I didn't necessarily like what they did with Tommy Doyle in Kills, but definitely more than what they did in Curse. I'll say that.
Oh, so you don't like this at all, is what you're saying? Like with Tommy Doyle?
No, not really. No. I did the whole 6 in general. It's like I don't know. I feel like 6 could have even went without having Tommy Doyle in the movie. Personally, I don't know.
I see what you're saying, though, because I feel like Tommy Doyle kind of slips into the Loomis role a bit, if that makes sense. Like, he's the one who's now obsessed, and Dr. Loomis, like, as the movie kind of progresses, he gets a little more, like freaked out, and, like the Loomis we all know and love.
Right.
It's just weird. It almost feels like we have 2 characters trying to serve the same purpose, and I wish we could have done more with either of them.
Exactly. And then that's another one, you know what? Just because I'm going to give it another rewatch, I'm going to see if my opinion changes.
Have you watched the 2 different cuts of it? I'm curious.
No, just the one.
Oh, okay. So if you watch the producer's cut, I feel like it makes a little more sense. Like if you watch the theatrical, it's just like...
It was the theatrical one I watched. And if I believe, the one I watched was like on AMC Fear Fest a couple years ago. Yeah.
So I want to say, like, it's been a while since I've seen the theatrical cut, but they don't really... I remember the ending being very rushed and very, like, what the fuck is happening in these last, like, 10 minutes or so. I want to say there's 6 or 7 more minutes in the producer's cut, and it just makes it all make a little more sense. Like, they do some things where it's, like, filmmaking-wise, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that, but at least there's a plot now.
Right. Exactly.
So give the producer's cut a chance. I've always felt like that was like, oh, wow, okay, there's a really cool story here. I just never realized that was that because of the theatrical cut and how it's made.
Yeah. That's the one I'll check out.
Absolutely, man. Very good. So after we get through the Cult of Thorns, the franchise moves in a new direction. Very Scream influenced with its next, with the next 2 films at least. Halloween H2O.
Yep.
How do you feel about this one?
I really liked it, and you are correct. Very Scream influenced. Also because I know Kevin Williamson wrote the movie. And it's the same house from Scream 3. I know that.
It is? Oh, I never knew that. No way.
Yep. Just for, they had I guess in H2O, they had just the pool covered up, and you see the pool so, at Scream 3, when they go to, I forgot the director's name, but his house were,
Roman's house, right?
Yeah, right, correct. That's the same boarding school from Halloween H2O.
No way. I never knew that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm like, that's another kind of parallel with it, I guess. But overall, I really liked Halloween H2O. To me, it brought me back to the original because it was clean cut. It was simple. Michael was going back to stalking. I loved it. I thought it had a great opening scene where we, first time Marion gets killed. Obviously, she comes back for kills. I love the ice skate through the face, even though we didn't get to see it. And then Loomis has this whole thing, in before the credits start rolling. I think that's great. I like that movie a lot.
Yeah, it is very sad because technically the previous film is the last one with Donald Pleasance, but we still get a little taste of him here in H2O, which is cool.
Right.
It always makes me sad, man. He imagine him in these newer movies, like
Oh, I
Halloween
know.
2018.
I
God, he
know.
would be so good.
Yeah,
Such a shame.
and I think he would have done him too if he was alive for sure. Those movies kind of needed him, Sartain
Absolutely.
was nothing compared to Loomis. I'll say that.
Oh yeah, we'll rant about that. That's gonna that's gonna be a whole thing. With
Right.
H2O though, I've always like the big criticisms of this one usually fall in the fact that once again Michael's mask is looking weird for a totally
Yeah.
different reason this time
Mhm.
around. Basically, how do you feel about the fucked up mask in this one? CGI, the design isn't great. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
It was a very simple mask. I'll say that. It was very CGI, especially in the kitchen scene where Charlie put his hand down the garbage disposal and pulled up the corkscrew. That was very CGI, so I didn't like that. I feel they could have did a better mask, 100%. I did not like that mask.
Yeah. Have you? So I recently watched the 4K of it. Like they released that collection.
Yeah.
Wish I could buy it myself. Borrowed it from a buddy. But I will say they do a little like some interesting things with the editing to make it not as noticeable. Like it's a little darker in the
Yeah.
scenes when they have the crappy mask, the fake
Right.
CGI mask. It fixes it a little bit for me, but it's still just a weird choice. I'm still just not crazy about that. And also the kills too. The kills are a little more lackluster in this one. Once again, much more akin to the late 90s, early thousands slashers.
Mhm.
What's your take on that?
I do agree with that because at least half of them are off screen. Okay, which especially that the one with the roller skate. Like I wish they would have showed us that. That would have been such a cool kill. You know what I'm saying? Charlie's death. Obviously, he died with that corkscrew. He's putting the dumbwaiter off screen. So much of it was off screen. So I wish if they would have put those kills on screen, it would have been better. And we had a low kill count, six kills total in that movie. So I was a little disappointed with that. But overall, movie wise, I did like it. I thought it was a good continuation to the story of Laurie Strode and where she would be 20 years later. Yes, she had trauma. Yes, she was drinking, not to the extent she was in Halloween 2018. But I appreciate both angles of where different directors wanted to take her years after the original to see how she was. So, I appreciated it for what it was, honestly.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with you about like the kills are good on paper, but they just don't show them to us. They don't show like
Right.
basically
Exactly.
anything. And it's a shame. It really is. The great ideas, just actually show it to us. That would be
Exactly.
cool.
Right. I agree.
Another thing I like to bring up, and this is a really weird specific detail about Halloween H2O, but they're watching Scream 2 in this
Yup.
movie.
Yeah, yup.
How do you feel about that paradox that basically
Well,
creates?
I mean, I feel like if they watch the first Scream, they're gonna be like, "Oh wait, Michael's not real. We're good." You know what I'm saying? 'Cause it's like so it's like I think they do that for fun, but it's like I mean they can't watch the original Scream. They're gonna hear Randy talking about Jamie Lee Curtis. Like that's a no-no. You know?
Right, right.
But
I've always thought that was fun.
right, I did too, and it's like I wonder how they explain that, but I think they do that just for fun. I'm not sure, but it's cool. I like that. I like when movies do that.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a nice nod, and it kind of it cracks me up more than anything. But it does create a paradox, and I think
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
fun. Halloween H2O also has a pretty badass ending to it, where we get Laurie
for
Strode
sure.
finally killing Michael Myers, or so she thinks. What do you think about this ending and how Resurrection sort of ruins it?
Well, what I thought about it as I was like, okay, she wanted to get the job done. She told her son and his girlfriend, get out of here. I'm going to take care of this. She chops his head off, and I'm like, okay, is this going to be the last movie? And clearly it wasn't. So I'm like, how are they going to go around this? And from what I heard, because what I originally thought was Halloween Resurrection was an afterthought, and they did kill Michael Myers. But from what I heard is that they knew all along this is what they were going to do, and that was kind of surprising to me.
It's just such a stretch. Like the whole thing
Yeah.
about like getting what is it, the police officer or whatever in the mask in the
paramedic,
bag,
yeah.
paramedic. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like how would Michael be able to know that was going to happen? I don't know.
Exactly. It is very far fetched, and they kind of show in Halloween Resurrection. You get like a little glimpse of how he did it and whatnot. But I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Never been crazy about how they retcon that in the next movie, but H2O as a standalone, or just being like the end of, let's say, 1, 2, and H2O trilogy, I dig that. I dig that as an ending. I could get behind that. I didn't ask you with Curse, so I'm going to ask you again. What would be your rating of Curse and H2O on a scale from 1 to 10?
Okay, so Cursed, I'm gonna be generous with that one too. I'm gonna give it a 5. And then with H2O, I'm going to give it an 8.
Hell yeah. Okay. I feel you there. I think I give H2O maybe like I probably give it a 7. I really like H2O. I wish we got more kills, and I wish Michael's mask just looked anything else besides that. The curse mask I've always felt it was underrated. I wish we could have adopted that look for future movies moving into the late 90s, early thousands. But it's not that bad. It's not as bad as like Alien Myers in Halloween 5. So I'll take it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And you know what? He had the mask, like, I think it was like untucked the whole time too.
That's interesting as well. There's so many specific details with Michael Myers as a killer that you have to get right. It's a simple design, but there's little tiny details that have to be perfect.
Yeah, and you know what? If we could go back to 5 real quick, something really interesting in that movie to me is Jamie Lloyd got such like a sensitive side out of him. You know, she got him to take his mask off. He had the little ponytail. He had tears coming down his face. I think that's something we've never seen with Michael Myers before. I was like kind of taken aback at first, but I'm like, okay. I mean, they tried something different. It was just so weird to me. I've never seen that before.
How do you feel about Michael Myers having that emotional side though, or like humanity being a part of him?
Honestly, it doesn't bother me. Honestly, you know, it shows me that like yes, he's the shape. He doesn't have any emotion, but maybe there is someone that can get a little bit of emotion out of him, and it's his young niece.
And that's interesting because we rarely see that movie. There's entire movies where we don't get to see something like that at all.
Right, right.
So like I was going to ask you this at the end, but I'm just going to ask you now. It's
Okay.
just good time to ask. How do you feel like what is the mystique of Michael Myers? Is there a person in there, or is this just an evil entity that walks the earth?
Honestly, just from what the movies are portraying, and if by watching these movies in fine detail like I do, I honestly think he's just pure evil. You know, unless we're talking about Rob Zombies, there's reasons for that. But if we're out of the Rob Zombie universe, I think he's just pure evil.
Oh yeah, okay. I've always like I agree with you. I think like honestly at its core what John Carpenter intended with the original movie is this is just a guy who's so like just pure evil, fucked up maniac and all that. But to see that emotional side gives me this idea that maybe there's a human being locked away underneath some kind of horrible dark energy or something. I've always been fascinated with that, especially in like Halloween 5 and there's moments in some of the other movies too. Like he doesn't kill babies. Why? You know, why doesn't he do that if he's the most like evil entity? There's something there, you know?
Exactly. I thought about that too.
Absolutely. It's always been fascinating to me. I love the mystery of Michael Myers. I think that's something that keeps me coming back to all of these movies for sure.
Oh, for sure. You know, to really to an extent, it makes it scarier because there's no why behind what he's doing.
Right. It's just nope. You can't reason with him. He's just gonna kill you.
You know, he grew up as like some perfect suburban kid with a normal family. It's like what made him snap, you know?
Right, like why would he do that? It's horrifying, and to see that encapsulated in Dr. Loomis as a character, I think just drives that point home and makes it even scarier. I don't know, I just love this franchise so much, man. But to talk about something we may not love as much, Halloween Resurrection.
Yeah.
What's your take on this one, Matt?
I see that one a little bit more as a comedy. Because I did appreciate the 15-minute opening. It completely felt like a different film. It looked like after those credits are over, we go in, hear about Dangertainment, Busta Rhymes situation. It feels like a completely different movie. And from there on, to me, it's just comedy. So I've watched it a couple times. I don't hate the movie. It's definitely down there on my list, and I expected more from it. But I guess that's the best way to explain it.
It's definitely not boring. You know what I mean? Like it is entertaining, but it's weird.
No, I definitely think it's entertaining. Like it's doing a lot of stuff. It just, to me, what they're doing doesn't really make sense.
I agree. I don't I agree with you. Like, I think that I appreciate what they did with the opening scene, but overall,
Yeah.
I'm just not a fan of killing Laurie Strode at the very beginning of the movie. It's like a lot of things are executed well in that movie, but the choices they make, I just don't agree with.
Right, right. And I did not expect that to happen either. For some reason, I thought she was going to make it through that whole movie. I didn't know how, but I thought they were going to do that.
I think the one thing that is cool about Resurrection is now we can say in like every decade since the 70s, there has been a Laurie Strode presence in these movies now because of Resurrection. Like if that movie didn't exist, we wouldn't have that.
That's
so,
true.
So that's cool.
That's true.
There's that. Busta Rhymes and a lot of other cast members in this were like very big stars at the time. How do you feel about like that style of like scream casting essentially? Like what do you think about the cast in this one?
So the main character, Sarah, okay, she had like a friend she met online. She was talking to Deckard, and they kind of brought him into the plot. To me, that was kind of useless, like him helping her out at the party, with the Palm Pilot type thing.
Yeah.
I feel like they could have left like that side story out and just kept the contestants in the house. But for the contestants in the house, the only one I think I really liked was Rudy, which is the guy who was the cook, and then Sarah. The rest of them, I didn't care for them. They were just kind of like douchey, just there to be killed off kind of people.
They're very forgettable. They don't feel like they fit in a Halloween movie at all.
Yeah.
I agree. It really is a shame because I don't hate the overall concept, even if it is a little simple, like the idea of going to the Myers house for like a show and all this. I'm like, I don't hate that, especially in entry number, whatever the fuck this is, like 9 or 8.
Yeah, 9, yeah. Oh,
9,
wait, no,
thank
8.
you.
That would be 8. I'm sorry. You're right, 8.
I can't count. I don't know. But like, I'm like, okay, I'll take it, whatever. But just the execution of it, I just thought was so poor. I don't care about the characters. Michael Myers looks even weirder than in the last movie. I don't know, man. And then the overall way they take down Michael Myers. How do you feel about that, like towards the end of the film?
I don't know. To me, in that movie, towards that end, he seemed so weak. First of all, he did what Busta Rhymes told him to do. Okay. In that whole garage scene, I don't know. He just seemed very weak. He went down very easy. I did not like how that movie ended.
It's the worst part. Like I can get behind some of the stuff in the middle of the movie, but like the very end is just it's a whimper of an ending. I'm not crazy about it.
He's in the fire, getting caught in the lines and everything. It's just I don't know. I did not like that ending.
Yeah, I've never been crazy about Resurrection. What I will say though, I think that's another one where if you just watch it as a standalone and you're just watching this as like this is a Scream knockoff style slasher,
it is.
You can have a good time with it, I think. But is it? I don't know. Is it my favorite Halloween movie? Not by a long shot.
Right. Exactly. And I feel like we got like the POV of like the footage, and I feel like that, I don't know, to me that seemed kind of cheap. I don't know, like it's like we would go back from like camera footage to being in the movie. It was just weird to me. I don't know, I didn't like that either.
It almost feels like a found footage element to the movie that's like underutilized,
Exactly.
It's weird. Once again, like great setup, like interesting setups, not great setups, interesting. But I just don't feel like anything gets like fully actualized in this movie.
No,
like,
it doesn't.
A lot with the new stuff too. I don't know. I'm not crazy about Resurrection, but on a scale from 1 to 10, what do you give this one?
I'm gonna go ahead and probably give this one a 6.5.
Oh, okay. So you like it a little better than some of the previous ones we were talking about.
I will admit, yes, I like it better than Curse, yes, which I gave a 5. It is watchable here and there, but I'm not gonna take it 100% seriously.
Yeah. I have the same take.
Yeah.
Yeah, like okay, I'll hang out with this one, but I don't take it seriously at all. I feel you on that, man.
Yeah, for sure.
But then we get like a reinvention of the franchise a couple of years later with Rob Zombie's take on Halloween. Much grittier, much dirtier, Hellbilly Deluxe and all that shit. What's your take on the first Rob Zombie Halloween?
So honestly, this movie gets so much hate. I absolutely loved that movie. I thought it was great. He kept the second half very close to what the original film was. He made the first half his own. And so many people hate on this, but I absolutely adore that movie. I really do.
I really love the first half of Rob Zombie's Halloween. I
It's
love
great.
when he's doing his own thing, it's great. I just feel like when he's trying to like mimic John Carpenter, it just doesn't hit as well for me, just because I'm not
Right.
as crazy about some of the characters in the back half of that one. But the opening and like Michael's backstory, it's tragic, it's intriguing, it's enthralling. I love it. So what's your favorite part of this movie, I guess?
So like I said, I really like the opening. It does feel a little bit like a different movie because the other movies kind of expressed Michael Myers was just some normal kid. But I love the fact that we get to see some of the things he does as a child. He does not just kill his sister, he kills the school bully, his stepdad, all of these animals. He's just overall crazy, and you get to kind of see that come to be before he finally snaps. And I think the way that they did that was just, it was amazing. It was amazing.
I really love the setup of this movie. I think my biggest detriment with the Rob Zombie Halloween film, like the first one, is like I'm not crazy about some of the characters in the back half. What's
Okay.
your thought on writing characters that like aren't like meant to be like relatable or that you want to root for, but they all just get killed on screen? Like this is something that the Thousands does a lot. What's your take on that?
So you're talking about like the characters in the second half where it kind of catches up to the actual remake?
Yeah, like like it's basically that's the second half of this movie. It's basically the remake of John
Exactly.
Carpenter's Halloween.
Right.
And instead of having characters that are a little more relatable and like, okay, they're nice people, I'm rooting for them, Rob Zombie takes a different approach. Like you kind of hate some of these characters a little bit and you want to see them die. Not all of them, but most
Right.
of them. And then you get to see them die, and it's satisfying in a lot of ways. Do you get satisfaction out of that, or do you think it's better to write characters that are like relatable and nice, and you're rooting for them, and then it's upsetting when you see them die?
I think a mixture of both is good, honestly, because like when he killed Joe Grizzly, I was like, this is such a throwaway character. I did not like that guy. It's like, okay, kill him, take his uniform, do your thing. And another thing I loved about this film is we got to meet the Strodes, who adopted Laurie Strode, and they were such likable characters. And when they were brutally murdered and they show it, that was sad. That was sad. Like Dee Wallace's death, that was very sad.
It's got a lot of dark, fun moments to
Yeah.
it, and maybe not so much fun, but it's got a lot of tragedy and like just dark elements to it that I love. It's got that Rob Zombie vibe to it.
Sure.
It's not awful. I don't think I hate this one, but I there's a lot of elements about the sequel that I feel like they get just a little better than the original. But
Right.
what are your the kills are over the top, grisly, some of the craziest that we've ever seen in this franchise. What are your take on like the kills in this movie specifically?
I honestly think the kills are really good. Up until we get Halloween 2018 and kills and all of that, I think this is the most brutal Michael Myers. He's big, he's strong,
Yeah.
and he goes crazy. I think all the kills in this movie are pretty intense, and I enjoy them all.
Oh yeah, Tyler Mane in the role of Michael Myers here. I just think he's incredible, man. Like
Oh, for
the
sure.
kills are awesome, but you also have an even bigger, scarier killer this time around. I
Yeah.
love Michael's portrayal in this film, but how do you feel about it?
Oh yeah. I absolutely love Tyler Mane. He did a great job, and he's just so, because I met him in real life. I met him twice actually, and this guy is so tall. He was the perfect role for this. And in real life, he's the nicest guy.
And that's always so jarring, but so funny, you know?
Right. But
You meet these killers and they're so nice.
Exactly. But no, he owned that role of Michael Myers. He did amazing. And this wasn't him so back in the I just want to say, going back to the first half, when young Michael Myers killed the bully with the stick in the woods, I thought that was, for the first half, the most brutal kill. That was pretty intense.
Without a doubt, dude, it's just upsetting. It's so like yeah, kind of in a way you're like, this kid's kind of a dick, it's like, oh, this sucks, lay off of Michael. But then you see that and you're just like, oh my
Yeah,
god,
and,
this
you
is
see him
dark.
crying. There's emotion there. You can feel him going in and out of consciousness. It's like it's scary.
You're reminded that even though you just saw a very like a nasty portrayal of this character, it's still a human being at the end of the day.
Actually, yes, 100%.
And I think that's what really works for me in the first half of this one, big time, is
Yeah,
you get to see a little bit of humanity, even though there's like a lot of awful characters being displayed here.
Yeah.
But on a scale from 1 to 10, what do you give Rob Zombie's first Halloween film?
Um, I'm gonna give it a 10. I loved it so much.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
So this is your number one so far. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and I always say my favorite is the original Halloween, and I'm going with that because I do love it, and it is a classic. It's what started all of this. But number wise, yeah, I'm gonna have to give Rob Zombies a 10 before the original, because you know what? And another big thing with that is I think Scout Taylor Compton, in my opinion, played a little bit better role of Laurie Strode. She was more frantic, and I know that's a hot take, but she really owned that movie, and she did an amazing job.
I think when you look at just the first two Halloween films, comparing like Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis, like the younger version versus Scout Taylor Compton, I think she does give the character just a little more, if that makes sense. Like she's kind of just Laurie Strode in the original movies is kind of just like basic final girl. You hadn't really experimented with that concept as much, but by the time we get to, the late 2000s, Scout Taylor Compton, I just feel like she adds a lot more to this role, where Jamie Lee Curtis like obviously builds the character a little more over time. By the time we get to Halloween 2018, like Jamie Lee Curtis kills it as Laurie Strode. I think her performance in that is way better, but I agree. Yeah, for sure. I give you that, man.
Yeah.
She kicks ass. But then moving into the sequel, which is maybe one of the most, besides Halloween Ends, one of the most hated in the entire franchise. What do you think of Rob Zombie's sequel here?
Okay, so first of all, you are correct. So many people hate this movie. So many people boycott this movie, but I did enjoy it. Not as much as the first one, but I did enjoy it. The only thing I think if they would have taken Sherry Moon Zombie's character as Michael's mother out of this movie and the White Horse, this movie would have been so much better.
It's very bizarre. Once again, we step into like the trippy, cartoonish feel a little bit that this franchise likes to seep into a little bit. Yeah. That doesn't work for a lot of people, and we get a taste of that here.
And to me, it's very Jason Voorhees vibes too.
It's a different style of Michael, even from the first one. Like, even though it's the same character, same director, whatever, like Michael without his mask is just a completely different character, in my opinion. Like you're not, it's no longer about like hiding the face. Like he's always, very protective of his mask in past films. Now we get a Michael, Hobo Myers as he's called.
As they call him, yep.
What's your take on this version of Michael Myers?
I mean, it's different. I mean, the film spends so much time, I guess, him just kind of wandering around, killing random people. No one even knows he's around until the very end. So, I mean, I guess it gives the movie time to explore Laurie's trauma from the first one and kind of how her relationship with Annie is. So I guess it gives that time for the characters to process what they went through. And then we bring Myers back just to kind of wreak havoc again. So I'm not going to knock it. I think what he chose to do was good. I did not dislike that movie.
I really have always enjoyed this version of Michael Myers, because from the first one, we get this bigger, scarier Michael, and that's really cool. We get to see his backstory. Yep. But then on top of all of that, in this movie, we get to see like what we were talking about earlier. It's almost like a little more of an emotional side to Michael Myers. It gives him a little more humanity. And even though a lot of people don't love that he talks at the end and it's kind of pointless, I do kind of enjoy that we try to apply some kind of human aspects to this character that has otherwise just been this evil energy monster that we all just see as like as just a villain and nothing more. Right. I appreciate that Rob Zombie tried to do that in this movie. Whether or not you think he was successful, I think that's something to be talked about. Should we do that for Michael Myers in future movies again? It's something interesting to me. I don't know.
Right. And from what I heard, he had a little more leeway to do more of what he wanted in the second one as opposed to the first one. So a lot of people were, coming and saying that so many people hated what he did with the first one. And instead of telling fans, hey, F you, I'm going to make Halloween 2 like this to kind of say to you guys, hey, F you. But I don't think he did that, in my opinion. I think he just did something he wanted to do.
I agree. It's much more Rob Zombie's movie. I think that's why this is maybe a hot take. I've always liked Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 just a little more than the first one, because it just feels more like a Rob Zombie movie.
Yeah, and I get that 100%.
I don't know, something about like artistic expression, being able to do it your own way. That's really important to me as someone who watches movies, who makes movies, and it's cool to see that for Rob Zombie here. So I don't know. I've always dug that about this movie. It's very different. It's one of the, I think is it the only movie in the franchise not to have the original John Carpenter score too? I can't remember
That's
or not.
I can't remember honestly, but I think that that's true. I think that that's true.
And that in and of itself is a big point to be made. It's like, we're not trying to make another Halloween film. This is with the same characters. We're going to try to tell a different story here.
Yep.
And it does
Yep.
amount to something very, very different. Loomis is so much more different. Brad Dourif as Sheriff Brackett gives one of the most emotional performances I've ever seen from him in this film when his daughter dies. It's upsetting.
He was so great in both 1 and 2. Like, he did an amazing job.
Absolutely, without a doubt, man. He's so good. I don't know. He's a really great, really well casted. There's a great cast in both of these movies too.
Yep.
It's almost kind of a shame that these get panned so much.
Yeah, and I'll never understand it. Like, I was able to meet like Danielle Harris too, and Scout Taylor Compton, and both amazing people. They just love talking about the movies, and it's fun talking to them because they're so passionate about it, and they should be. They did a great job in these films. Same with Tyler Mane, amazing.
Now, do you think they would ever like? What do you think they should have done for a third one? Because that's been talked about so many times. Rob Zombie was maybe going to do that. Do you think we could have continued this story further, or does 2 give you a satisfying ending?
I know that they wanted to make a third one, but the fact that they didn't, I think, works too. The way they ended it, I'm like, it's fine. You know what I mean? Would I have appreciated a third one? Absolutely, because I really love what he did with 1 and 2, and I will be like a constant, just here cheering it on when everyone else is not. I love both of them.
Oh yeah. I'm happy with the ending. I love that it's like it's super tragic and over the top fucked up, but I agree. There's a part of me that would love to see like another one just to see what they would have done and like where it would have gone. I think that would have been kind of interesting. But I enjoy this one. What do you give Rob Zombie's like Halloween 2 specifically on from 1 to 10? What do you rank it?
So I'm gonna give it a 9. So it's up there, just a little bit less than the first one.
Hell yeah, man. Okay. Very nice. Very nice. I dig it. I'm probably right there with you. I probably give it an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, something in that ballpark. I really enjoy the sequel a lot. But then we get into another big reboot, which is kind of a reboot, kind of a sequel, prequel, whatever. Halloween 2018. What's your take on this one?
So let me tell you, Jake. News broke out about Halloween 2018 in September of 2017, 13 months. I have followed that movie ever since, and I was like so excited, couldn't wait for the trailers. I saw this movie initially in the theater Thursday night, day before it came out, and I was slightly disappointed. And I think I was only slightly disappointed is because I built it up for 13 months, and I don't know if I was like creating in my head what I thought I wanted to see. And so I don't think I was able to see the movie for what it was, because after watching it a second time, I liked it better. A couple months later, I watched it again, and I absolutely love it now.
Hell yeah, man. I'm very back and forth on this one. I kind of feel you there. I think the first time I saw it, I loved it because I had an incredible theater experience. Like people were losing their minds over this guy in a mask, and I'm like, this is so interesting. Like, oh my god, just an amazing theater experience. I really loved the movie. It was a good time. Going back and watching it a few more times, there is some weird stuff. There's some stuff I'm not crazy about. Some of the dialogue's very cheesy and out there, but that does fit with the franchise. So it's nothing where I'm
right.
It's nothing where it's like so glaring, like what the fuck, I really think the only big negative about this film I still have is Dr. Sartain as a character. What's your take on him?
I agree. I thought when we discovered he was all of a sudden evil and just wanted to see what Michael was capable of, I'm like, oh no, this is going to ruin the movie. Hawkins runs him over. Sartain says you killed him. I'm like, oh man, now Michael's dead and Sartain's gonna take over this franchise. I was glad that ended quickly and it did not ruin the film. I'll just say that. So, but him as a character, I didn't like it.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about him either. You know, a lot of the new characters in this movie are really fresh and they don't feel like they're based off of anything from the past. Like especially in the core family, I
Yes,
like them.
correct.
It's nice. It kind of sets up what the requel format was moving forward in other
Exactly.
films. But
Exactly.
then with Sartain, I just feel like he's a clone of Dr. Loomis, and they don't really like. Besides him having a kind of a different take on Michael, like I want to see him in the wild. I don't know. I'm just not crazy about the concept of the character, the execution. Nothing about it felt very important to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with you. They were so different, but so similar. Like he was just like, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know how to explain it, but it's like he followed the podcasters out there. He's like, oh, don't, Michael already knows you're here. Like from that very first moment, um, I'm like, yeah, this guy is just Loomis, just a different guy. But it's like he also had like this love for Michael that Loomis didn't have. But I see what you're saying. They felt so similar yet so different.
Yeah, and I don't know. I love a lot of the new characters in this. I think the way that this is just a constant thing I notice in a lot of David Gordon Green films. He'll have these side characters that are always so interesting and well written, and they're usually only on screen for like a little while. Like I think the
Oh, for sure.
podcasters have a pretty good relationship. I
Yep.
think some of like the other townsfolk of Haddonfield we meet along the way. The babysitter,
Yep.
the kid she's babysitting. It's all very funny and nice. It's like okay, I enjoy spending time with these characters. That's great.
Yeah, yeah, for
Sorry.
sure. Like I like Sandra, her husband we meet in Halloween. Like great characters, great.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, man. Sartain does have a good death though. I think the head stomp's maybe one of my favorites in Halloween 2018. But what's your
Yep.
favorite kill in the movie?
So my favorite kill in the movie, I am going to have to say I really like. I think her name was Dana, the podcaster. Her death in the bathroom stall. It wasn't like technically the best death, but to me, it was the most suspenseful moment leading up to a death. Like the teeth over the bathroom stall. That was scary to me. So the way that whole scene went down, I'm gonna have to say that one.
Sometimes the best part of a death is the setup, and
It is.
I
It is.
totally agree, man. It makes it all the more scary because they build it up even more. He just drops all those teeth. It's like, oh my
Exactly.
god, she's crawling underneath the stalls and trying to get away from him. Yeah, sometimes the chase makes the kill. You know,
One
it's
hundred percent. I agree.
Oh yeah, man. There's a lot of great kills in this one though, and some great characters, new characters and old characters alike. But how do you feel about the legacy characters, how they were dealt with versus some of the newer characters like Andy Matichak, Judy Greer, yada yada?
Well, I feel like they gave Jamie Lee Curtis a very realistic approach towards like everything that went on with trauma. Like her whole life was about Michael Myers, and you know what she went through. It's very possible that 40 years later, she could still be, you know, having trouble with that. And I think what added on to it was, she wanted to teach her daughter to be strong. She wanted to teach her daughter to fight, teach her daughter how many evils in the world there is. And, that essentially got her daughter taken away from her. So that's like another trauma on top of that and never getting her back. So I feel like she's had trauma after trauma built on her for over 40 years. And I think that's why she was in such a rough spot. And I think they portrayed that really well.
Absolutely, man. I couldn't agree more. I think this is my favorite. This is my favorite representation of
Mhm.
Laurie Strode as a character. I
Yeah.
think it's so realistic, but it also is like, God, it's so tragic too. Like I feel bad for her, but at the same time, like she's perpetuating some of this not only onto herself but to the people around her.
Right. So it's like you feel bad for her, but at the same time, you feel bad for her family who wants a relationship with her. And it's like, well, what direction do I go down? It's like, how do I help her get through this and be there? Like it's like kind of like it's a hard situation to be in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And Judy Greer's character, I feel so bad. Like I just feel so bad for her. She's just trying to live this normal life, get away from like what her mom put her through, and she just can't get that. And then like
Right.
it all ends up being true, and she has to
Yep.
go and fight with her mom again. It really is
Exactly.
kind of it's one of the most emotional stories I feel like we've ever gotten from this franchise, and I've just always
Right.
appreciated that side to it.
Right. And like in her granddaughter Allison, like she was like stuck in the middle with it because she wanted a relationship with her grandmother and wanted a relationship with her mother. So she was the one caught in between. So kind of is a rough spot. Family
Absolutely.
stuff kind of sucks.
It does kind of suck sometimes, unfortunately. And this movie represents that really well. Allison's a great new final girl too. I think one of my favorite moments in all of Halloween is when she sees the shape for the first time and that killer score is playing.
Oh, the score, yeah.
Oh, it's awesome. So good.
I loved it.
So the score is probably some of the best in these movies, but what is your take on it?
I think it was great. Like that whole I think the name of that song was like the shape chases Allison, like that alarming sound. I loved it. It worked perfect with that scene. I think I love the way they did the opening credits with the score. It's the same score from the original. I think they just updated it like a little bit. And I really like the score. I really like the score in Halloween 2018.
Absolutely, man. John Carpenter, Cody Carpenter, and like what is his name? John Davies or whatever.
Is it Daniel Davies maybe?
Daniel Davies. That sounds more right.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's not two Johns. That's wrong. Right. But yeah, no, great, just phenomenal score throughout all these newer movies.
Right.
Then we get to the ending though, with the house catching on fire, where we're fighting Michael Myers in the basement, not in that order. How do you feel? How do you feel about this conclusion, going to Laurie Strode's house full of traps?
I feel it was good. Watching like the trailers and stuff, I'm like, okay, how did Michael know how to get here? But they set it up. Sartain drove him there. That's how he got there. So all of that started to make sense. So I really like what they did with it. And I think like seeing where she lived from the beginning of the movie kind of gave us a clue, and showing us how everything's all locked perfectly. And she has the island over the stairs, a little cubby to get in the basement. I think they set that up for a good third act. So I appreciate what they did with it. I think it was a good way to what we thought end Michael Myers.
Yeah, I agree. It's so much fun, and then it's like you get this like sense that maybe he's not dead. You know, you don't see him in that last shot in the basement with all the fire. You're like, what's going on there? I loved the ending. I thought that was one of my favorite parts of the whole film. It's exhilarating. It's over the top. Laurie Strode fighting him, you know, throughout the whole house, throughout all those sequences, the shutters, the metal shutters that come down to block off the rooms. A lot of great stuff throughout this third act.
And then Karen Nelson there, she gets really badass at that moment too, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Shooting Michael and all that. It's cool.
So that training her mom gave her, you know, she owes her mom an apology, but
But that what happens in the next movie though? Halloween 2018. What do you give this one out of 10?
I'm gonna give it a 9.5.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
Very nice. I'm right there with you. I think I give this 9.5, close to a 10. It's probably my favorite sequel. I really enjoy this one. I don't know. It just blows my mind every time.
Yeah, when I think about it, being a direct sequel to that original movie, they did a good job. You know, these guys coming from comedy, David Gordon Green, Danny McBride, they did a great job with it for like doing their first horror project. It was amazing. It was a perfect sequel for the original movie. They went about it so well.
And just like the original movie, I feel like Halloween 2018 is super influential. Like we have so many movies that come out in the wake of that are requels now, you know, and that's kind of the first movie to really popularize that. Even if like something like Texas Chainsaw or like even going back to Dream Warriors attempted this same idea of like legacy characters and new characters in the same boat at the same time. So I don't know. I really enjoy that about this movie. It threw that out there, and now every franchise is kind of doing it. But it's a great movie. It's a lot of fun, and it's followed up by a mindless but fun, just crazy slasher film, Halloween Kills. What's your take on this one?
Like I said, overall, I like the film. It started from it went to 0 to 10 in 2 seconds. So I'm like, this movie got going pretty fast with that amazing flashback scene. And I feel like the pacing of the film was maybe a little all over the place. The hospital scenes, especially with The Evil Dies Tonight, like I was telling you, was a little bit too much. But overall, I liked the movie. I thought it was a great slasher movie. I felt Halloween 2018 had a bit more story, but I guess Halloween Kills, didn't need to have too much story. It just wanted to show, kind of what Michael could do. And in that fact, they did a really good job with it. So I don't have too many complaints on it, honestly.
I don't either. This one is always, it really grew on me because I think if the first time I watched it, I was like, well, they just did the same thing with Halloween 2 where Laurie's in bed the whole time.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think they even do it kind of worse because it's like Laurie doesn't really get to do anything in that movie, you know? And I just think that's always been that's always been a big down spot for this one. But besides that, I think Michael gets some of his best kills. We get a really fun finale at the Myers house with Big John and Little John and all these fun side characters. It really is a special movie. I don't think it's nowhere near the bottom of my list. I enjoy this one.
I agree. And it's like, I feel like Halloween Kills had some of the most like not so smart character decisions, but I mean, to make it a slasher, I guess they got to make dumb decisions sometimes.
Not every character is going to make smart decisions, you know?
Right. Like, you know, the whole, Little John upstairs, you know, saying to Michael, you've come home. I'm like, I don't know if I would have said that. I probably would have just got out of there. But I don't know if they were doing that just to like, is it like a respect thing? Like, oh, you know, Michael, this was I don't know. Maybe he was in shock, you know, seeing his partner dead. I don't know.
Trying to appeal to his humanity or something.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Maybe.
Exactly.
I kind of agree with you. I still would have just gotten the fuck out of there. Like, screw that shit.
Made it out. Michael was just in a trance at that window. So.
Right. I agree. A lot of dumb character decisions, but I think at the end of the day, Halloween Kills was just going for, we want to give Michael Myers the highest kill count. We just want to have fun with this character, essentially.
Right, exactly.
Story was pushed off to the side in a lot of ways.
Yep.
But how do you feel? So with the kills, that's obviously a main focus. One of the big moments in the opening scene is just Michael Myers decimating these firefighters. What's your favorite kill of the whole film?
The favorite kill of the whole film, I was gonna say the light bulb scene, but that's not even a kill. So, let me think. Favorite kill. You know what? I'm gonna say Big John because he got the armpit stab before he got his eyes gouged out. That was different.
That was different. Okay, hell yeah, man.
I've never seen a stab under the armpit. I think that would hurt terribly. So yeah, that was something I've never seen before. So I'm like, okay, that's different. That's cool. So I'm gonna go with that one.
Nice, man. That's I feel like that's an underrated one. It is messed up. It's really it's hard to watch at times. I've always loved Cameron's death is so good.
Oh yeah, that was brutal. Yeah.
And I love silly deaths too. I don't know why, but silly deaths always kind of make me crack up. The one girl with the gun getting it like with the door to her face or whatever. I think that's funny too. I don't know. It's dumb, but it's like, okay, that's creative. You know, I've never seen that before.
And it's like, where was she when her husband and Marion were getting brutally murdered? Like, I don't know, whatever. It's a movie.
Spatial logic. Who cares? Come on.
Yeah, right.
But Halloween Kills does have some interesting things to it, even if the plot is kind of all over the place. We get these amazing flashback scenes at the beginning of the film too. What is your take on that and like Hawkins as a character?
Oh, I think they were great. I think that like that literally looks like it was shot in the 70s. I think they portrayed that so well. I really liked what they did with it, you know? And I thought, I'm like, how are they going to explain this one? Because I originally thought Michael Myers was going to kill Hawkins' partner. In 18, Jamie Lee Curtis said Michael Myers killed 5 people. Well, this would have made it 6. So understandably so, his partner, you know, obviously accidentally shot him. So I'm like, that cleared that up. So I didn't like how like that part went down because it makes, I don't know, Hawkins is gonna have to like live with all of this guilt. But with that aside, the way they did those flashback scenes were perfect. The way they made the house look, the streets, the color of the film, the outfits, it was amazing. I didn't have one complaint about it.
Without a doubt. I wish they could have went somewhere with it in Halloween Ends, but I'm just glad it exists because it's so well done. It's well shot. Yeah, like you said, it feels right out of the original movie in a lot of ways. They killed it with that. The Loomis, Dr. Loomis too. That looks so good. I don't know. Everything about that is chef's kiss. But then actually, before we get ahead of ourselves here, Halloween Kills. What do you give this one from 1 to 10?
So Halloween Kills, I'm going to give it probably, I'll go with the 7.5.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I think the kills are great in this and well paced, and I feel really bad when some of these characters die.
For
But
sure.
on the other hand, the plot is whatever.
For sure. Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Evil dies tonight, but
Too much, but I mean, whatever.
evil did not in fact die that night
No,
because
he
we have
didn't.
another movie a
Exactly.
couple of years later. How do you feel about Halloween Ends?
So overall, the trailer made everyone think it was going to be something completely different than what we got. So when I'm watching this movie, I'm kind of, I'm with my wife, and we're kind of like, trying to figure out like, this doesn't seem like much like a Halloween movie. Like, where's Michael Myers? This and that, and I don't know. Like, I'd say probably 35 minutes into this movie, I'm like, this is definitely going to be something different. And like I said, I appreciated it for being something different. But if you had read the book or heard about the book for Halloween Ends, that would have been a much better movie, I think. And it would have gave fans more of what they wanted. If you could have just sprinkled Michael Myers in a little bit more, maybe do some flashback scenes within those 4 years he was missing, maybe show him do some killings, things like that. I feel like it would have added more to the movie. But like I said, I give it credit for doing something different. But again, was it a good conclusion to a trilogy? No. There were things set up at the end of Kills that were never explained in Halloween Ends. Michael Myers is looking out the window. He just wanted to go home, and they spent so much time on that fact alone, I feel. And then in the beginning, you find out they demolished the Myers house and he's now living in a sewer. So, I mean, there's its good, there's its bad. I give it credit for doing something different, really different, I guess.
This is another movie to like what you were saying there, where there's so many great ideas set up throughout. Like, I love the idea of Michael Myers killing people in a sewer. I think that is it's a great location. It's different.
Yep.
We haven't been there yet. That's
Yep.
fun.
Yep.
But with Corey Cunningham, I'm just not crazy about this character. If it's because of how everyone in the town reacts to him, like some people like absolutely hate him, but then we have the inherently good characters we've known from the previous two movies.
Exactly.
Just be overly nice to this guy for really no reason, and I just feel like it doesn't make sense from
Right.
characters who have been, stricken by another serial killer. Now to be nice to this guy who's being accused of something similar to that.
He was thrown in there. It was weird. It was weird. And like everyone says, this movie has so many parallels to Christine, and that's another one we watched a few weeks ago. And yes, it's very parallel to Christine. Instead of a car, you have Michael Myers now. So that is very big on the Christine angle. But it's like, even though I don't agree with so much of what they did, I just like, part of me still likes it. I don't really have a full reason. It's weird, but like everyone's saying, introduce Corey in the previous film. Like, bringing a new character in like that out of nowhere, I mean, it doesn't make sense. I'll give you that.
I think that maybe if you just polish up the love interest angle a little more, like if Allison just doesn't, she acts so dumb in this movie, and it just makes me like really scratch my head and get a little frustrated because she's so intelligent, so like resourceful in some of the other movies, and then just to reduce her down to love interest here, it's a shame. It really is. It's just a big disappointment in my opinion.
Love interest really is the only part she played until the very end when she came in there to help her grandma when she broke Michael's arm. That's really the only action she really put into this movie.
And I don't know. I think that's such a shame and a disappointment. But I would have loved to have seen a little more focus on Allison as just a character and not just being completely head over heels for this greasy weirdo she just met. But I don't know. I think my biggest thing about the film is I needed to really latch on to Corey Cunningham, and this movie just doesn't do that. We have band kids who are in no way notorious for being bullies bully this guy, and that's just hard for me to believe.
Right.
And that was supposed to get me to, be on board with Corey. I think if I liked him as a character, this movie would work, but I just don't because of the way they set it up.
Right. And I see what you mean by that, because it's like these four band kids are beating up this 24-year-old guy and making him look so weak, and yet this 24-year-old guy can go rip Michael Myers' mask off and say, "Hey, I need to borrow this." Like, you know what I mean? Like that whole fight scene in the tunnel, that was comical. That should not have been in that movie. I will say that.
Yeah, and I will like what I will say is I think that a lot of this movie is not, I don't know, I don't absolutely hate it. You know what I mean? Like I
Right,
really do
right,
love a lot of the ideas
right,
they introduce. I just wish we could have gotten from point A to point B in a more smoother way. Maybe if we didn't have a production schedule that started filming to the film's release was 10 months. Maybe if we, just took our time a little more with
right.
this one, I feel like we could have gotten a better product and a really good conclusion to a timeline, which I feel like we've really yet to have gotten that from this franchise.
Right, right. I agree with that. It was quick. Like they did this movie really quick. I agree. Maybe if they took a little more time, I don't know. I don't know. And the thing was is that like they didn't market it this way either. They marketed as they always said, final showdown with Laurie Strode. We saw Corey in the trailer, but we didn't know to what extent. So
Right, right. Yeah, and then like the end of the movie with the showdown in the kitchen and all that. It's like, oh, okay, we're doing it
yeah.
again. We're back to where we were in the previous two movies. But I don't know. Never been super crazy about it. But what do you? So overall, though, like, what do you want to say to people who really just don't like this movie and panned it? Like, is there any like big convincing argument you can throw out there?
Um, I guess the only thing I would say is if you guys don't like it, I understand why. Like if you do like it, I understand why. But if you don't, maybe give it one more chance. Maybe see this is maybe what the director wanted to do. Maybe just try to understand their vision and maybe take a step back. You still might hate it. You might end up liking it. I don't know. Maybe give it another shot just to watch it again. And I don't know. I mean, that's really the only thing I can say. I know so many people are just so strong on Corey Cunningham should not have been in this movie. And it's like I get all opinions. I get it. Like anyone's opinion on this movie has never upsetted me because I get it 100%.
But you really like it though, and I
Yeah.
respect that, dude. And I know there's a lot of people that really dig this movie. I don't hate it. It really is growing on me. There's a lot of things about it that I do love. I just wish it was a little more cohesive and put together better. But I will say, watching this movie not as the finale to the story that we've been following through the previous two movies,
Yeah.
watch it
Yeah.
as a standalone. It's much better. It's a much more like just fun. It's really fun at times. It has some interesting like kills and moments to it. I don't know. I think as a standalone, it works. Just as the continuation, like you said, I don't think it does.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree. Like if you want to watch this, like pretend it is a standalone film, it does make it better. I agree.
Now, what do you give this 1 out of 10?
I'm gonna give this one probably a 7.
A 7. Very nice.
Yeah.
Hell
A
yeah.
7. Yeah.
I'm like 5 or 6 out of 10 with this one, but it's slowly every time I talk about it, it just moves a little further up. So
Right. Well,
I
that's
am.
good. I'm glad. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've had a better time with it every time I've watched it. So I will say that. Now, concluding the podcast, Matt, is there anything else you want to say about the Halloween franchise that you feel very strongly about?
Well, I do say that I will say that I do want to see more films in the future. I do think they need to take like at least a 5-year break because I feel like people will start getting upset again with ends. So I do want to see a whole different take on it. I don't. I mean, we can't really do a sequel to the. I mean, we could do a sequel to the original, just not from ends. But I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to see like a reboot, kind of like Rob Zombie did, or a sequel. Maybe do like a sequel in the 90s or something like that. There's so many different things they can do, and I'm sure they're working on ideas, but I would like to see a new film maybe within the next 5 to 10 years for sure.
I'm very much so excited to see Michael Myers back on the big screen at some point in the future.
Oh, yeah.
When that will be, who knows? But I hope that whoever does it next gives us another movie with like great characters and just some good kills. Michael Myers on screen too for more than 6 minutes of the movie. That would be cool. I
Yep,
think that's what we
absolutely.
need after ends. Something
For sure,
so out
for
there,
sure. For sure.
Absolutely. Matt, do you anything you want to plug or throw out there just real quick at the end of this?
So I do have my channel Slashing It with Matt. I haven't done too much on there, I'd say the past 6 months. But if you guys would like to subscribe, that would not hurt. I think that would give me motivation to get this going again, kick up some more videos. I've been thinking about it anyway. So I would really appreciate it if you guys would subscribe to that. I am also on TikTok. My name on TikTok is Everything with Matt. So it's everything_with_. Matt. And on there, I do a lot of different things. I've done a couple like horror short videos. I started doing horror movie trivia on my lives. So I'm getting into that too. So that's fun. So if you guys wouldn't mind giving me a follow on TikTok, I'd really appreciate that too.
So thank you all so much for watching the first episode of the podcast, and don't forget to kill it out there, y'all. Peace.
All right, bye guys.